Good evening. Thank you for coming to tonight's program. My name is Jacob Bartko. I'm the Vice President of Operations here at the Jefferson. It's my pleasure to kick off tonight's program, and I'm here to do three things for you. First, some housekeeping. If you need assistance during the event, please find one of our volunteers. We'll be happy to help you. And reminders for the Q&A portion. Please raise your hand and a mic will be brought over to you. When you have the mic, please keep your questions brief and concise and refrain from offering lengthy statements. Now, on to upcoming events. Tomorrow here at noon, Dr. Sherry Mason will deliver a lecture titled Exploring Project Neptune's Trident. Also tomorrow at 6 p.m., Kat DiVittorio will be at Harbor Creek Township Building to present Building an Autism Support School and Hub in rural Pennsylvania. Finally, Thursday at 7 p.m., Michael Bussell will be at Erie Center for Arts and Technology to present Redistricting Reform, making sure voters pick their lawmakers. And lastly, I would like to introduce you to our presenters this evening. David and Ginger Hildebrand are professional performers, teachers, and recording artists. They specialize in early American music, having co-founded and directed the Colonial Music Institute, which is now under the auspice of George Washington's Mount Vernon. Their soundtrack work include PBS film Rediscovering George Washington and Anthem, The Story of the Star-Spangled Banner. Ginger holds an MM in guitar performance from Peabody Conservatory. David's MA and PhD, both in musicology, are from George Washington University and Catholic University. Ginger teaches privately at the Key School and Severn School, and David is on the faculty at the Peabody Conservatory of Music in Baltimore. So ladies and gentlemen, please give David and Ginger Hildebrand a warm Jefferson welcome.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be back in Erie. This might be our 6th performance here at the Jefferson Educational Society, going back 12 or 15 years. And it's always a pleasure to come here because I know how seriously you all embrace intellectual thought and history and political discourse. But we bring it to you through music. That's what we do. So the last 2 summers previous, we did programs on music of the American Revolution. Before then, we've done programs on music, of course, related to Thomas Jefferson, to George Washington, to Benjamin Franklin. But tonight we focus on General Lafayette, not the Marquis de Lafayette, because he renounced his title when he became a commander within the Continental Army. Basically, what we've done is tried to tell the story of this man's life, his virtues, the American appreciation of him, through the different types of music that greeted him when he came in the 1820s. This would be dance music. These marches were played by brass bands. There were songs that were composed and sung for him. And as we go through them, we'll tell you a little bit about the instruments of his times, not just in the 1820s, but especially back in the 1770s and 1780s. So we'll go straight to dance tunes. Spirit of France and Lafayette Forever.
Thank you so much. It's such a joy to be back here, and thank you so much for coming out and spending the evening with us. The instruments that we were playing we brought them in our minivan from our home in Annapolis, Maryland. They are instruments that we have been using for decades to recreate the music, mostly of the 1770s, and the surrounding decades, of course. And yeah, we'll talk about them all, but we'll start talking about the fiddle or violin. They called this instrument interchangeably violin and fiddle, as we do today, back in the 1770s and in the 1820s as well. Usually when we were playing the dance tunes that we just played, we'd call it a fiddle. It's the same instrument. It's just kind of a nickname. And then if I'm playing Vivaldi for you, I would call it a violin at that point. And it's not really strict. It's just, it's just a funny thing. I think the most interesting thing about this instrument, though, is, first of all, that it was crazy popular. We've cataloged hundreds and hundreds of instruments throughout this period, and about 80% of them are violins and fiddles. Really popular instrument. They were cheap, they were easy to come by. And the other really interesting thing is only men and boys played this instrument, which is a problem for you because you don't want to hear David play it, and it's a problem for us because we do want to have an audience at some point. So, so I need to be the player of this instrument, and we need to have this instrument on stage because it's so very important. And you need to know how crazy that is. A couple other gender things really quickly. I'm dressed in a wealthy woman's dress for you today. A wealthy woman would never perform on a stage for anyone. She would lose her reputation like that, much less play a violin. Then she'd lose it twice, right? But a wealthy woman had more to lose, right? So a wealthy woman had to be really careful about her reputation. It was fragile for her. And the only way to do better for her was to marry well. You don't marry well if you don't have a very good reputation. So, so there are a lot of there's just a lot of pressure, especially on women. And it was just unfashionable for women to play the violin. I really cannot find any reasonable reason that would be why they would just not play, except that they'd lose their reputation if they did. And fashion is a very big thing. I maintain we are all slaves to fashion in some sense.
So ironically, not only should I be the one playing the violin to be historically accurate, but Ginger should be the one playing the harpsichord, because the keyboard instruments of the day were very much more gendered towards women. There were some men who played. Thomas Jefferson owned a harpsichord. He didn't play it as much as he played his violin. But the instrument that we brought here is more representative then of the days of Jefferson's playing the violin, in the days when Lafayette first came to fight in the American Revolution. The 1770s, instruments like this were emblematic of the upper class. Harpsichords came in two sizes. This is the smaller spinet style. It's a copy of one built in London in the 1720s. We'll talk a little bit about how the harpsichord works and why it changed over to the keyboard instrument of the 1820s when Lafayette came back, which of course was the piano over on that side of the stage. You've heard enough piano before. We're going to stick with the harpsichord tonight. And we're going to play a tune that was well known to George Washington, to the French officers, as well as Lafayette himself, because it is one used to set a sort of an oratorio, a dramatic presentation, kind of like opera, but not really acted out, one that was given to the French officers in Philadelphia when they came to join Lafayette in 1781 to help prosecute the end of the war. We'll follow this verse from that one source with a couple later written to honor George Washington. in his tours of the new United States later. Arise, arise, your voices raise, and swell the solemn hymn of praise. At great Minerva's awful shrine, bow down and own the power divine. Bow down, bow down, bow down, bow down, bow down and own the power divine. He comes, 'tis mighty Washington. Words fail to tell all he has done. Our hero, guardian, father, friend. His fame can never, never end. Hero, guardian, father, friend. His fame can never, never end. Now freedom has our wishes crowned. Let flowing goblets pass around. We'll drink to freedom's favorite son. Health, peace, and joy to Washington. Drink to freedom's favorite son. Health, peace, and joy to Washington. I should mention really quickly, though, this relationship between George Washington and Lafayette was often compared to that of a father and a son. Lafayette was a mere teenager when he came on his own volition and presented himself to the Continental Congress and asked to help us fight the war. He served as a general under Washington, and Washington took a very special interest in him. You'll hear the finale of this concert program, a song entitled Washington's Favorite, the Brave Lafayette. Such was that reputation even when he returned in 1825 and 24.
Our next piece of music, The Irishman's Epistle to the Officers and Troops of Boston, is a really fun little piece that's very, very different. It's from a very lower class poet who is writing as he's learning the news from Lexington and Concord. In the streets of Boston, the news comes to him, and he learns, first of all, that the first shots have been fired, that things have gotten very, very tense in Boston, and thank goodness that the Brits were sorely embarrassed. They were unprepared and running away from the gunfire. And the farmers that came out of Acton, Massachusetts with their muskets, they either didn't know or didn't care about that very important part of warfare, the rule of warfare that states that when your enemy begins to retreat, you stop shooting. Well, they didn't stop. So this poet thinks, oh my gosh, these Brits are not being shot in the honorable side of their body. And he writes a song about it. It's so clever and it's so fun and it's so low. But I think it's important to hear the voices of everybody. So forgive our language, you've heard worse.
And just remember, this is the low-class response to the shot heard round the world in April of 1775.
Well, these ideas were some of the reasons that Lafayette got so excited to come and join the cause. By my my faith, but I think you're all makers of bulls, with your brains and your breeches, your guts and your skulls. Get home with your muskets and put up your swords, and look in your books for the meaning of words.
You see now, my honeys, how much you've incrited, for concord like discord could never be beaten. You see now, my honeys, how much you're mistaken, for concord by discord could never be beaten.
How brave you went out with your muskets all bright, and thought to be frightened the folks with the fight. But when you got there, how they powdered your plums, and all the way home, how they peppered your bums.
And is it not, honeys, a comical farce to be proud in your face and be shot in the arse? Is it not, honeys, a comical farce to be proud in your face and be shot in the arse?
How come you to think now they did not know how to be after their firelocks as smartly as you? Why, you see now, my honeys, 'tis nothing at all but to pull at the trigger and pop goes the ball. And what have you got now with all your designing, but a town without victuals to sit down and dine in, and to look on the ground like a parcel of noodles, and sing how the Yankees have beaten the Doodles.
I'm sure if you're wife, you'll make peace for a dinner, for fighting and fasting will soon make you thinner. To look on the ground like a parcel of noodles, and to sing how the Yankees have beaten the Doodles. Thank you very much. It was actually the news of this precise engagement in April of 1775 that inspired Lafayette to leave France, to take some of the incredible wealth that he had inherited from his parents, both of whom had died by then, and follow this spirit of freedom across the ocean. He hired a ship. He presented himself to the Congress and said, I want to help you fight your war. And the Continental Congress said, well, no thanks, we don't need a Frenchman. And then he said, but I'll pay you a lot of money. And they said, fine, join in here, you're a general now. That's how things work sometimes. I don't mean to make light of it, though, because Lafayette took things so very seriously. He literally shed blood in this war, and we'll sing a song about that. It was from the Battle of Brandywine, correct, near the end of this program. And so this idea of the spirit of liberty is very much part of the Enlightenment, which brings us back to Jefferson too, doesn't it? You know, the days of respecting knowledge, of gathering the ages of thought back from the Greeks and the Romans and everybody, and trying to make sense of it. There was another person doing this besides Lafayette. His name was Thomas Paine. We know Paine as the author of the little pamphlet Common Sense that helped convince so many Americans to join the revolutionary cause. Well, Thomas Paine, though not a musician, wrote a song, and that's our next one. It's called The Liberty Tree. We'll talk a little bit about how a non-musician can write a song later, but these are his words, not his melody, but his words.
They say he composed this song, even though he didn't write the melody.
In the chariot of light from the regions of day, the goddess of liberty came. 10,000 celestials directed the way, and thither conducted the dame. This fair budding branch from the garden above, where millions with millions agree, she brought in her hand as a pledge of her love, the plant she called Liberty Tree. This celestial exotic struck deep in the ground, like a native it flourished and bore. The fame of its fruit drew the nations around to seek out its peaceable shore. Unmindful of names or distinction they came, for freemen like brothers agree. With one spirit endowed, they one friendship pursued, and their temple was Liberty Tree. Beneath this fair branch, like the patriarchs of old, their bread and contentment they eat, unwearied with trouble of silver or gold, or the cares of the grand and the great. With timber and tar they old England supplied, supported her power on the seas. Her battles they fought without having a groat, for the honor of Liberty Tree. But hear, O ye swains, 'tis a tale most profane, how all the tyrannical powers, King, Commons, and Lords, are uniting amain to cut down this guardian of ours. From the east to the west, blow the trumpet to arms, through the land let the sound of it flee. Let the far and the near all unite with a cheer, in defense of our Liberty Tree.
So we'll talk about dance for a little bit. Dancing was the most popular sport, was the most popular gathering of people. The people loved to dance, and they took it really seriously. When Lafayette visited, they would have a ball, which was just more of a dance, right? And the balls had really a kind of a specific map to them. The balls would start out with the minuets, and there would be an order of the minuets. The minuet is done one couple at a time, but it's listed who's going to dance when in exact descending social class order. So the highest ranking gentleman in the room, if Washington was there, it would be him. He would dance with the highest ranking woman in the room, which was, I think, never Martha, because we don't have a record of her ever having danced. I don't know why. I don't think anybody knows. But
we do know who he danced with on the second of these tunes in your program. He danced with a woman by the name of Miss Margaret Champlin. I didn't mean to interrupt you, except just to say that there are descriptions of these military balls, and it's a very important way to sort of reinforce the belief of the hierarchy, belief in themselves as the leaders of the war itself. Sorry to interrupt.
That's good. That's good. So once all the minuets are done, again, one couple at a time, everybody is looking to make sure your dress is awesome, and it's usually your new dress that you made, and they're watching to make sure that your steps are just right. And so when the minuets are finally finished, everybody breathes a sigh of relief. The punch starts to flow freely, and they start doing then the country dances. And the reason they use that term, country dances, is because everybody dances together, the whole country. Everybody's dancing at the same time. So nobody cares if you miss a step, and nobody cares if your dress has fallen off even. So everything is good at that point. But it's just a funny way that they did the balls. So here, two more dance tunes.
I'll tell you a little bit more about them. The first one, Monsieur Lafayette, shows up in an American music manuscript 5 years after the end of the Revolution, which tells us the people were still thinking about Lafayette, even in those days well before his grand tour. But I share with you a wonderful quote about the second of these tunes called Successful Campaign, because this brings us back to the other French officers who joined Lafayette here toward the end of the American Revolution. I quote from a colleague friend of ours, Raoul Camus. He writes that during George Washington's visit to Newport, Rhode Island, in March 1781, to confer with Rochambeau, the French officers arranged a ball in his honor. They decorated the ballroom with flags, swords, drums, and streamers, and all the fanciful color that the army possessed. And George Washington opened the ball by request. He danced the first number with Miss Margaret Champlain, one of the reigning belles of Newport. And as the signal was given, the French officers took the instruments from the hands of the musicians, the American musicians, and flourished the opening strains of a successful campaign. That's the second piece you'll hear now. That's somebody.
Is it you?
Is it me?
I think it's you.
Where? You know, I swear.
Please silence your phones, right?
I did. I did. It says good morning. I swear. It's George. Never had that happen before.
You should have gotten it. That's embarrassing. He's throwing it away.
I promise you if I push the right buttons, but obviously I didn't.
Yes.
My apologies.
At least George waited until between our songs.
That was nice. That was nice. So, Lafayette's advanced beliefs of his day went far beyond the rights of man, which we'll talk about later, but included also the rights of women, which we'll sing about later, and also abolition. He was quite ahead of his time amongst the leaders. Now, abolition was gaining momentum in other ways, certainly by the 1820s. But he believed so firmly that slavery was wrong that he purchased a plantation. And he freed the slaves and hired them back to pay them money for their labor. He wanted to prove that a plantation could be just as efficient, that it could be a business, a successful business, without this horrible use of slavery. And it worked. Even better, though, there's a story of a young African American from Virginia. In 1760, he was born as a slave, a man named James Armistead. In 1776, when Lafayette took command of troops in Virginia, James Armistead signed up, not to fight as a soldier against the British, but to be a spy. And Armistead was very successful. As a man of color, he could sneak back and forth across enemy lines and gather information about Cornwallis and his troop movement before Yorktown, bring this information back and give it to the American generals. Well, after the war, the American Army gracefully gave stipends, retirement pay, to the African Americans who served as soldiers, but not as the ones as spies. So when Lafayette got news of this, he petitioned Congress and he said, "You need to give this man a pension and free him." And in response, James Armistead was freed, lived on as a successful farmer in Virginia, and changed his name from James Armistead to James Armistead Lafayette. In his honor, we sing one of the songs of the slaves collected in the 1820s.
In Virginia.
In Virginia, yes. Don't be weary, traveler, come along home to Jesus. Don't be weary, traveler, come along home to Jesus.
My head got wet with the midnight dew.
Come along home
to Jesus.
Come along home.
Angels bear me witness to come along home to Jesus. Don't be weary, traveler, come along home to Jesus. Don't be weary, traveler, come along home to Jesus. Where to go I did not know. Come along home to Jesus.
Come along home.
Ever since he freed my soul, come along home to Jesus.
Don't be weary, traveler, come along home to Jesus. Don't be weary, traveler, come along home to Jesus.
I looked at the world and the world looks new. Come along home to Jesus.
Come along
I looked at the world and the
home.
world looks new. Come
Come
along
along
home to Jesus.
Don't be weary, traveler, come along home to Jesus. Don't be weary, traveler, come along home to Jesus. So here's one of these many pieces composed for Lafayette's arrival. In this case, his arrival in Baltimore, Maryland. As mentioned in our bios, we're quite involved in the music scene in Maryland, and it's really kind of fun to bring something from our home region to you. There was a German immigrant by the name of Christopher Meinecke, and he decided to compose a military march in quickstep in Lafayette's honor. And of course, this sort of music was played by instruments that we don't have here on the stage, by brass instruments. Many of the tunes greeting Lafayette on his grand tour were played by bands. But that band music doesn't survive in band notation. It survives in piano score. And so from the piano scores, we need to extrapolate what the band parts might have sounded like. And that's a little bit of this. Next piece, this is the quick-step portion of General Lafayette's Grand March in quick-step, but we've arranged it for the instruments that we do know how to play. In this case, the recorder and the violin.
Thank you
Rick.
so much. The songs that we're singing for you are parodies. Parody was the way of song in early America. It was, that was American music. It was new words to existing melodies that everybody knew, most of them British. And most of the songs that we've sung for you are parodies of other songs. You may have actually recognized some of them. I hope you might have. But there are a lot of reasons for this. The primary one would have been that few printing presses here had musical type. And most of the songs are about current events, right? And so you need to publish it in tomorrow's newspaper. It needs to get out, and it's important. And so you publish the words, and you might suggest the tune to which you could sing it. You might not, and because some of them are interchangeable, some not so much. Or you could just publish the words, and there are hints in the wording or in the meter that would suggest which melody it would go to. The next song is you will definitely know this one, it's to the tune of Yankee Doodle. And you didn't need to say it was Yankee Doodle, because every second line ended with the word sir.
And the chorus begins with Yankee Doodle, keep it up.
Well,
that
yeah.
part gives it away too.
Yes, that does.
Yeah, so Yankee Doodle by far was the most commonly parodized melody. A dear friend of ours passed away before he finished collecting parodies of Yankee Doodle. He was over 200. And that was just up to about the year 1850.
Entire songs.
And there's a special significance, though, to using Yankee Doodle. Although no one really knows for sure where the melody came from. It's kind of a folk tune that just arises and becomes established in the 1760s. It's almost always associated with ridicule, with making fun of somebody, a teasing song. That's how the British used it when they played their drums outside the churches in Boston in the 1760s. And that's how the Americans used it back at the British, at the surrenders. Most importantly, the one we're going to sing about. And this is the surrender of Lord Cornwallis, of his troops at Yorktown in 1781. Last night over in Jefferson, Ohio, we were doing our program of music of the Revolution specifically, and we sang about the surrender up at Saratoga in 1777. There's songs about all of these events. And this one, though, is Lafayette's moment of glory, because he's the one who helped coordinate the surrounding and the surrender of the British at Yorktown. He's the one who advised the American bands to play Yankee Doodle while the British marched out, just to rub a little extra salt into that wound. So join us on the choruses if you'd like. It's a great song, but we need to explain one more thing about it before we sing it, because it is a song that likens the honors of the battlefield, advancing, retreating, surrendering, calling for a parley, with the honors of the dance floor, and that is advancing and retreating during a minuet to take your bows, circling. As the troops circled Cornwallis, as General Greene, as well as Lafayette, were trying to corner Cornwallis, they were circling. And this brilliant artist, we have no idea who wrote these words. They just show up in American newspapers right after the surrender. It's a great song. The Dance, a ballad to the tune of Yankee Doodle.
Feel free to sing with us if you'd like.
Cornwallis led a country dance, the like was never seen, sir. Much retrograde and much advance, and all with General Greene, sir. They rambled up, they rambled down, joined hands and off they run, sir. Our General Greene to Charleston, the Earl to Wilmington, sir. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. Greene in the South and danced a set, and got a mighty name, sir. Cornwallis jigged with young Fayette, but suffered in his fame, sir. Then down he figured to the shore, most like a lordly dancer, and on his courtly honor swore he would no more advance, sir. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy, mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. Quoth he, my guards are weary grown with footing country dances. They never at St. James shone at capers, kicks, or prances. This challenge known soon full they came, a set who had the bon ton de grâce and Rochambeau, whose fame fut brillant pour un longtemps. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy, mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. And Washington, Columbia's son, whom easy nature taught, sir, that grace which can't by pains be won, or Pluto's gold be bought, sir. So hand in hand they circle round this ever-dancing pier, sir. Their gentle movements soon confound the earl as they draw near, sir. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy, mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. Well, his music soon forgets to play, his feet can move no more, sir, and all his bands now curse the day they came into our shore, sir. So Tories all, what can you say? Come, is this not a griper? That while your hopes are danced away, 'tis you must pay the piper. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy, mind the music and the step, and with the girls be handy. Here's a really interesting little fact. Although we're not sure who wrote Yankee Doodle, and there are all those different words to it, or how the melody came to be as it is today, there is a French song called Lampon, Comrade Lampon that sure sounds a lot like Yankee Doodle. And it was used as a song by a French priest to write honoring Benjamin Franklin, of all people. We've recorded it, Lampon, Lampon. We move now to a completely different instrument.
This instrument is called a hammered dulcimer. In the 18th and early 19th centuries, this instrument was mostly called simply dulcimer, at least here. At this point, you would see it in Hungary and Germany, and it had different names there. It was not a popular instrument. The popularity of instruments goes about like this. Violins, 80%, really popular, cheap and easy to come by, most of them except Jefferson's. 10% flutes. This is not including the military music, which would be fifes and drums, which is separate. Forgive me, I can explain that later. But for parlor instruments, violin, flute, and then harpsichords, and way down at the bottom, dulcimers. There were 5 dulcimers that we know of in the colonies. They were played by itinerant professional male musicians, all of them. But these were men who traveled the colonies looking for an audience because that was their livelihood. I maintain that more people saw the dulcimers being played than saw harpsichords being played, because the harpsichords stayed in the homes of the very wealthy, and most of us weren't going to get that invitation, right? So the numbers of the instruments and who saw them and how often, and what really makes popularity, I don't know. But anyway, it was an important instrument. And we have a couple of tunes for you on this. The first one's called Sweet Richard, one of our favorite country dance tunes. Thank you.
You can see why people would pay to come and hear these rare instruments. It's just a lovely sound.
And one more tune on this one for you. This is it's a very important piece of music. It was called the President's March for a while. It was written by a very unlikely fellow. This guy's name was Philip File. He came with the Hessians to do us in the Revolution, right? He did not yield a musket. He was a musician. So his job in the Hessian army was to keep the Hessian officers happy in their tents while they were having dinner. And he was doing a really good job of this. Christmas of 75.
6.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
6.
Christmas of 76 on the banks of the Delaware. And they were very happy in their tents until an uninvited guest came across the Delaware. And yeah, you know all about it. But Philip File was taken a prisoner of war that fateful night. And when you take a musician prisoner of war, then you just get more music, right? So he ended up playing for the American officers and keeping them happy at dinner time in their tents, and actually enjoyed that very much and became an American citizen after the war. When he wrote this piece of music for George Washington, the President's March, I hope you'll recognize it.
So you may wonder, why did we include a march written by a Hessian about George Washington in a program about Lafayette? That tune was the single most frequently played melody to greet Lafayette as he toured the 25 states in the 1820s. Played by bands from the very outset when he arrived at Staten Island in August of 1824, the bands would play the President's March. It was exceedingly popular at that time. And through the 19th century, actually, the President's March served as our national anthem. It was published as the national anthem of the United States, and many people accepted it as such. As you may know, or if you saw our War of 1812 program a few years ago, the Star-Spangled Banner beat out the President's March in 1931, well into the 20th century. I think that's the guitar this time. You might have to turn the guitar mic down a tad. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So anyway, President's March, gigantically important piece. But another thing that happened when Lafayette was greeted, he was serenaded by a song called Hail Columbia. Hail Columbia are the new words that were written to the President's March between Lafayette's time and the Revolution and when he came back on his tour. So let us sing for you the words from 1798, composed by Joseph Hopkinson, the song Hail Columbia, the new patriotic song composed to the melody of the President's March. And in some cases, like in Charlottesville, Virginia, when Lafayette arrived, they did both. They played the President's March by band music, and then they sang it for him as well, both of these pieces. Hail Columbia, happy land, hail ye heroes, heaven-born band, who fought and bled in freedom's cause, who fought and bled in freedom's cause, and when the storm of war was gone, enjoyed the peace our valor won. Let independence be our boast, ever mindful of the cost, ever grateful of the prize. Let its altar reach the skies. Firm, united, let us be, rallying round our liberty. As a band of brothers joined, peace and safety we shall find. I've served for 2 years as the chair of the music committee for the Bicentennial of the Lafayette Tour. And it's been really fun researching, arranging, distributing this music to other musicians to be played all the way around the path from New York out into Lake Erie and down to the Charleston and up New Orleans and up the Mississippi and so forth. And it was really fun to be at Charlottesville at the recreation of Lafayette's arrival, because we had a band play the President's March. I sang Hail Columbia, and guess who was there? Thomas Jefferson, somebody interpreting Jefferson in the last year of his life, when he was so weak he couldn't even read the words he had composed to be spoken. He had to pass them over to someone else to be done. Back in 1824.
So we have another song here for you. This was written in response to the rights of man by a woman, the rights of women. She wrote this in 1795, did not put her name to it. Potentially because she would lose her reputation, and her name might have been Wollstonecraft, or at least she was potentially in those circles. Anyway, the rights of women, another parody, but very surprising to me. Maybe not to so many of you. I don't know. But I love the song. God save each female's right, show to her ravaged sight, woman is free. Let freedom's voice prevail and draw aside the veil. Supreme effulgence hail, sweet liberty. Oh, let the sacred fire of freedom's voice inspire a female too. Man makes the cause his own, and fame his acts renown. Woman, thy fears disown, assert thy due. Let snarling cynics frown, their maxims I disown, their ways detest. By man your tyrant lord, females no more never be awed. Let freedom's sacred word inspire your breast.
Talk about guitars. So how very appropriate that Ginger would begin the concert playing an instrument that only men played, and here near the end she's playing an instrument that only women play.
It's a great song. Let's talk about the guitars for a little bit, though. This one is a true guitar by every definition. It's a wasted instrument. We call this a Baroque guitar. This is exactly how guitars looked until 1780. By 1820, guitars did not have 10 strings. They had 6 strings, and they weren't all this fancy. Until then, they were all crazy fancy because, and I think it's kind of an elitist thing, they wanted to maintain them in the hands of only the wealthy people. After 1820, they have only 6 strings and they become much more simple. They lose the rose and the sound hole and become cheap and easy to come by, more of a every man's kind of instrument.
Yeah, we could turn this one off, actually. We're done with this guitar mic. Turn it off. Thanks. So you may have seen guitars just like this in the French paintings of Fragonard and Boucher. These are Enlightenment era painters, or also Vermeers. These show up very similar. In fact, the great Stradivarius, not only did he make violins and cellos, he made a few guitars as well. So this is quite an exceptional instrument, and one that Lafayette most likely would have heard during his first visit. But this one is the one that really stands out.
This one, they also called guitar. In reality, it's a cittern, C-I-T-T-E-R-N. It had been a very popular instrument in the Renaissance period and had its own little renaissance in the middle of the 18th century. They strung it in 10 strings, like this instrument, but tuned in a completely different way. This is in an open C tuning, almost C tonight, and it's tuned in metal strings, where this one was tuned in gut strings. So very, very different instruments, yet they gave them both the same name. And this was only a woman's instrument, and this was only a man's instrument.
George Washington's quasi-adopted granddaughter, Nellie Custis, played one of those. Jefferson's daughters played them. Many of the Moravian women in the settlements in Pennsylvania and North Carolina played these cittern-like instruments. So here we are now, for Lafayette, probably the climax of his visit to America in the 1820s. And that is that one of the strongest lures to Americans to come and see Lafayette, besides the desire, I mean, people flooded to the cities to follow his tour, to attend any of the dances, to see his being received by the mayor of a city, to see any of the events surrounding this tour. One of the most commonly touted things was Lafayette was a man who shed blood for the American cause at Brandywine. So you can imagine when he went to Brandywine in 1825, what it was like for him emotionally to see the very battlefield. And of course, somebody wrote a song about it. And this parody, no, it's not New Year's Eve. This is Auld Lang Syne, the song that we often associate with that. But the good old Scottish tune is put to a new use to honor the shedding of blood of Lafayette at Brandywine.
This tune was not only used at New Year's. In fact, that was a tradition that was after 1825. It was just a common Scottish tune.
Should days of trial be forgot, although those days have fled, can we neglect the sacred spot where patriot heroes bled? Oh no, those days of old lang syne we never can forget, when with our sires to Brandywine came gallant Lafayette. By Brandywine's enchanting stream our swains in peace abode, until the tyrant's minions came to stain its banks with blood. And oh, those days of old lang syne we never can forget, with our sires to Brandywine came gallant Lafayette. To meet the foeman on the plain, each patriot onward pressed, and there with Washington and Wayne appeared our honored guest. Those anxious days of old lang syne we never can forget, when with our sires to Brandywine came gallant Lafayette. And there he bore him in the van where Washington still led, and to sustain the rights of man the youthful warrior bled. Those fearful days of old lang syne we never can forget, when with our sires to Brandywine came gallant Lafayette. Then long as our romantic stream shall roll its silver wave, its veils shall echo with the name of Lafayette the brave. For all those days of old lang syne we never can forget, when with our sires to Brandywine came gallant Lafayette. Thank you so much. Thank you. Before we close with our final stories and our final music, we really wish to thank the Jefferson Educational Society for bringing us back. The sponsorship of programs like this means that we can continue to create new ones. And it's such a pleasure to share these findings of history and give them to you in a different way, not in a textbook, not in a lecture, but indeed through the art of music.
If you've been to a concert of ours before, you may have heard the story of our next song, but not the entire song, because this is kind of a favorite story of ours to tell. Another parody, this one a very important one to all of us. Our national anthem was an old English drinking song. I'm sure you know that.
Cheers.
Be it a proud thing or not, it is true. The rest of the story goes like this. There were, in the 1760s, there was a group of gentlemen that formed a club, and to do poetry and music and drink in excess. And most of these men's clubs were, they had names like the Wednesday Club or the Saturday Club. But this specific group of gentlemen thought that they would be better than that. So they called themselves the Anacreontic Society, naming themselves after the ancient Greek poet Anacreon, who wrote all of his poems about love and about wine. So they said, okay, this is our guy. We will be the Anacreontic Society. And they wrote a poem To Anacreon in heaven will you be our sponsor? And Anacreon answers, yes, of course, if you will espouse my ideals, love and wine, Venus and Bacchus. And the poem goes on. And so they recited the poem at the beginning of every meeting of the club. And they thought, well, we could do better than this. Let's make it a song. But there was no existing melody that fit the crazy meter of this poem. And so they went down the street to John Stafford Smith's house, and they asked John Stafford Smith if he would write a tune that would go with their poem. And he agreed. And that's our melody.
And they were so proud of themselves. They published the melody. And it was published either in 1779 or 1780. I kind of hope it was 79, because that's the year that Francis Scott Key was born, down in our homeland of Maryland. And so the story of our Star-Spangled Banner really truly begins by the publication of a poem set to music in England and the birth of the man who would write a parody. In fact, Key wrote 2 parodies. We know one of them better than the other. But think about this for a moment. The club was founded in the 1760s, the poem written in the 1760s, the music composed around 1780. 45 years later, guess what melody people are writing songs about Lafayette to? And guess what we've saved for the end of this program? We will remind you of what the first verse of the original song sounds like. We'll follow that with an American patriotic parody written for John Adams, and then 2 of our favorite verses for Lafayette, especially the one from the song called Washington's Favorite, Our Brave Lafayette. With this, we close our program. Oh, and by the way, we would love to entertain any questions if you have them afterwards. We'll stay on the stage for that. To Anacreon in heaven, where he sat in full glee, a few sons of harmony sent a petition that he their inspirer and patron should be, when this answer arrived from that jolly old Grecian. Voice, fiddle, and flute no longer be mute, I'll lend you my name and inspire you to boot. And besides, I'll instruct you like me to entwine the myrtle of Venus with Bacchus's vine. And besides, I'll instruct you like me to entwine the myrtle of Venus with Bacchus's vine. Ye sons of Columbia, who bravely have fought for those rights which unstained from your sires had descended, may you long taste the blessings your valor has bought, and your sons reap the soil which your fathers defended. Mid the reign of mild peace, may your nation increase with the glory of Rome and the wisdom of Greece. And ne'er may the sons of Columbia be slaves, while the earth bears a plant or the sea rolls its waves. And ne'er may the sons of Columbia be slaves, while the earth bears a plant or the sea rolls its waves. Invited he comes mid the shouts of the world, the shouts of 10 millions who gladden our clime. The star-spangled banner so proudly unfurled, the page of his glory, immortal as time. Brave warrior of France, brave soldier of fame, with fondest devotion we'll hallow thy name. The millions of freemen who welcome thee here, while virtue is valued and freedom is dear. The millions of freemen who welcome thee here, while virtue is valued and freedom is dear. Rise, sons of Columbia, to welcome the brave, who once with your sires for your freedom contended. Rise to welcome the hero who comes o'er the wave, to visit this land he so nobly defended. Though age has come o'er him, and manhood's bright prime hath yielded at length to the inroads of time. No child of Columbia can ever forget her Washington's favorite, the brave Lafayette. No child of Columbia can ever forget her Washington's favorite, the brave Lafayette.
Play ball.
Thank you. We so appreciate that. Thank you so much. We have folks with microphones. If you have a question, please raise a hand, and someone will bring a microphone to you to share it. If not, I guess we told you everything about Lafayette through music. No, here's one up here. Please bring a microphone. Right here.
In the Irish official song, there was a melody that you transitioned with that used to be the BBC's jingle.
It's been used a lot for a lot of things. Nottingham Ale is probably the most famous tune the most famous words to that tune. Very, very possible that it was used for that as well. But these are melodies, remember, that they used with the parodies, melodies that everybody knew back then, right? And we do recognize some of them currently, but yes, I'm sure.
Okay, and it was also used as a parody about, I think it was an anti-Catholic.
It's the original, actually. Yeah, Lily Burlero is the name
Lily
of the
Burlero,
original song, yes. And it was very anti-Catholic. It was sung by the Irish when the Catholics were clamping down on the land grants in Ireland in the 1680s.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Any other questions? Here's one over here. Oh,
Please wait for the mic.
I'm sorry.
Next year will be the 250th anniversary of the country, and I'm curious as to where you two will be spending next year and how you'll be celebrating.
Funny you should ask.
I'm so sorry. Could you repeat that? I don't think
Yeah,
the
hold
mic
the mic
picked
a
it
little
up.
closer to your mouth.
Next year is the 250th anniversary of the country, and I'm curious as to how you will be spending the year next year, how you'll be celebrating.
Let me start with July 4th, 2026. We will be in the State House in Annapolis, Maryland, where we're from, the building in which Lafayette addressed the citizens 200 years ago this past December. And it'll be quite an honor. We'll be in the old House of Delegates chamber there. But we learned today that we'll also be in Erie, Pennsylvania, back doing our revolutionary program. Thank you so much. And beyond that, actually, Ferky explained to us last year he wants to send us around the state of Pennsylvania as emissaries of the Jefferson Education Society to do multiple concerts in the regions around the Commonwealth. And that would be an honor. I hope that works out.
Yeah, we're hoping that. Yes, right here. Yes.
Your bio said you do some work with school children and that type of education. Could you share a little bit about what would be different if you're talking to grade school or high school students? My daughter teaches second grade. I would love to take a few nuggets back because we live near Mount Vernon, and I think it could add to the kids' education.
Do you want to answer that? Okay, I got it. So we probably wouldn't have sung the song about the arse. Unfortunately, because arse is like one of the nicest bad words that kids hear these days anyway.
Actually, we sang that to a mixed audience once, and we heard this little kid ask his mom right after we finished that song. He says, "Mommy, what what's an arse? and everybody could hear, of course. Like, oh no, our bad.
To be honest, though, yeah, the programs that we do, and we've done hundreds and hundreds of them over the years, maybe 1,000 over these many years, is largely the same as you're hearing here. I mean, we're demonstrating the instruments, we're explaining them. Oh, we do play a guessing game with them that's kind of fun. We take, Ginger takes her fiddle and she plays tunes. Here's a quick sample, actually. Some of these tunes, we try to convince the children that Yankee Doodle isn't the only melody from this period that people know. So,
First tune we do is.
which
you
of course is
recognize-
what, right?
What
Anyone know
song
any
is that?
words? This
Okay.
is the way you brush your teeth, brush your teeth, brush your teeth, right?
Lazy Mary, will you get up? Right?
Right.
It's a lot.
Here we go round the mulberry bush, the mulberry bush, the mulberry bush.
It's a lot of songs, right?
I
And-
saw 3 ships come sailing in at Christmas time. Yeah, and during the Revolution, there was a Tory song against George Washington that begins, "Ye Tories all rejoice and sing, success to George our gracious king."
and
So we play that and then a couple others.
the next guessing game tune we do is.
The Muffin Man.
Yeah, sure. Everybody knows the Muffin Man, right? So, and they usually know that one. And we have a few others that are colonial tunes, popular colonial tunes that they will recognize. And it's, to just make that connection. We feel it's.
Often, although Ginger loves to take a little break and just ask them, what is colonial? What does colonial mean? And sometimes they're not really sure. And so we have to talk. And usually there's a kid or two who goes, yeah, it's like somebody owns property somewhere else. And so we interpret and talk about what is colonialism and what's the difference when we become our own country. Did you say you're near Mount Vernon? Yes. Tomorrow night we're going down to play for Mount Vernon in Alexandria, a teacher institute. We do them every summer. It'll be the 26th summer in a row that we, Mount Vernon loves to bring in teachers from around the country and give them tools to teach history. And luckily, one of those tools they get is music as a way to teach. So that'll be fun. I believe there was a very patient person here who had a hand up with a question before. Would you like to ask it?
Forgive me if you covered this, I might have missed it, but you did say Lafayette came here as a teenager.
Yeah.
And George Washington, the father of our country, had no children of his own. But of course he married and she had children, Martha Washington. But did he not adopt Lafayette or thought of him as his son?
Yes, the latter. He thought of him as his son. They had a very close relationship.
That's what I thought.
They embraced in public and at their last meeting, which was in Annapolis, our town of Annapolis, Maryland. When Lafayette saw George Washington, he knew that they may never meet again.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't formally adopt Washington, did not adopt Lafayette formally.
But he thought of him as his.
But they,
Yeah.
they shared so many things. Lafayette sent to Mount Vernon the key to the Bastille after the French Revolution. And when Lafayette came back, of course, one of the reasons, again, on July 4th, 2026, this is also the place where Washington resigned his commission of the Continental Army. And that was an especially emotional moment for Lafayette to be in the same room where that occurred. So these connections are just, I think, 45 years. We started in 1980. She was a baby. It's been a long time.
We're not kidding.
Yeah, so we started in 1980. So
I wasn't a baby though.
she was as old as Lafayette was when he came to America to fight the revolution. How about that?
There you go. Any other questions? Thank you so much
And thank you.
for sharing this. evening
Really,
with
thank
us.
you.